Welcome back to the deep dive. So I want to start today with a metric that drives pretty much every organization on the planet. If you look at a tech startup, a massive corporation, a gym franchise, or, as we're talking about today, a religious community, everyone is absolutely obsessed with customer acquisition cost.
The famous CAC.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of the holy grail of growth metrics, isn't it? How much money, time, and effort does it take to get a single new person through the door?
Right. It's all about the funnel, winning the lost, signing up the new subscriber, getting the numbers up. It's the growth mindset.
Yeah.
But today's source material, it just throws a massive wrench in that engine. It argues that while we are obsessed with getting people in, we are paradoxically terrible at dealing with the people who are already inside but have gone off the rails.
It's the churn problem, but with a huge moral twist.
Yeah.
In business, if you lose a customer, you lose revenue. In a community, if you lose a member to toxic behavior or conflict, you lose the soul of the group.
Exactly. The premise we're looking at today comes from a stack of notes and a really thought-provoking audio essay by Pastor Huji Kong, dated January 30th, 2026. And the core argument is genuinely unsettling. He says that when a member of the community starts acting out, causing conflict, spreading toxicity, sinning, our default setting is to just freeze. We literally don't know how to handle it. We focus on winning the lost, but we totally ignore restoring the saved.
It creates a fascinating contradiction, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is infinitely easier to sell a vision to a stranger than it is to have a really hard conversation with a friend. And that is what this deep dive is really about. We're exploring the incredibly awkward, sweat-inducing art of, well, constructive confrontation.
Which, let's be honest, is my absolute nightmare. I'm a professional conflict avoider. If I see someone messing up, my instinct is to look at my phone, pretend I'm invisible, or just, walk the other way. I want to be the nice guy.
And that instinct, that deep-seated desire to be seen as nice, that's exactly what Pastor Hugh puts on trial in this essay. He argues that niceness, in the sense of avoiding friction just to keep the atmosphere pleasant, can actually be the most destructive force in a community.
Oh.
He suggests that true love requires a firm spine just as much as a broad heart.
That's a really strong image. Usually we think love is just the broad heart part, accepting everything. But the firm spine implies you have to stand for something. So let's get into the mechanics of this. The source starts with some pretty heavy theology, but it quickly pivots to office politics, legislative brawls, and something called the Sheng Yuan, which is a term I hadn't heard before, but we definitely need to unpack.
Oh, it's a crucial concept. But yes, we have to start with the foundation. The source really focuses on this idea of covering sin.
Right, and this is where the language gets tricky. Pastor Hugh analyzes James chapter 5 and 1 Peter chapter 4. The core idea in James seems pretty straightforward. If you see someone wandering from the truth, bringing them back is a rescue mission. The text says you are saving a soul from death. It's high stakes.
It frames the intervention not as being annoying, but as being, well, life-saving.
But then he brings up a phrase that I think causes a lot of confusion and, frankly, has been used to justify some terrible behavior in institutions. Love covers a multitude of sins. When I hear covering, I think of a PR team. I think of a scandal being buried to protect the brand.
That is the modern, cynical reading, and frankly, it is how a lot of organizations operate. We naturally think covering means sweeping the dirt under the rug so the house looks clean when visitors come over. But the source is adamant. That is not love, that's just deception.
So how does the source redefine covering? Because if you're hiding the mistake, aren't you? Exposing it?
Think of it in medical terms, or even like deep cleaning terms. Pastor Hugh uses a specific cleaning metaphor. He says, love is not sweeping dirt under the rug. Instead, where there is love, there has to be truth. And where there is truth, there must be cleansing. If you have a deep, infected wound, you don't cover it with a bandage and pretend it's not there just so you don't have to look at it.
No, if you do that, it just gets worse. You have to clean it out, which is usually the most painful part of the whole process.
Extremely painful. You have to expose the infection to treat it. So the argument here is that you help the person face their wrongdoing. You expose the dirt specifically so it can be washed away.
Oh, I see. So covering isn't about the secrecy of the act itself. It's about the totality of the forgiveness after the act is dealt with.
Precisely. The source offers this reassurance. Once the issue is dealt with, confessed, addressed, and forgiven, it is no longer remembered. That is the true covering. It's restoration. The record is expunged. If you just hide it, the rot is still there, just festering. If you confront it and clean it, the person is restored and the record is covered.
Okay, that sounds really noble in the abstract. We must cleanse the wound. But putting that into practice, I mean, that's terrifying. Walking up to a colleague, a family member, or a friend and saying, hey, you're acting like a jerk and we need to talk about it, that takes a level of guts that, well, most of us simply don't have.
It does. And Pastor Hu seems to anticipate that hesitation.
Yeah.
He knows his audience isn't, naturally confrontational. So the source transitions from the theology to a very practical self-assessment. He poses 3 specific questions. Think of it as a litmus test for your own conscience to see if you're actually ready to do this, or if you're just looking for an excuse to yell at someone, or an excuse to stay quiet.
I love a good checklist. Let's run through these because I think they apply to way more than just religious settings. The first one he calls the active check.
This is the bravery test, he asks. How willing are you to directly question someone about their wrongdoing? It forces you to look in the mirror and ask, am I being patient and waiting for the right moment, or am I just being cowardly?
That's a tough distinction. We tell ourselves, oh, I don't want to embarrass them, or it's not my place, or I'll wait until they're in a better mood. But really, we're just chicken.
We are protecting our own comfort, not their well-being. We value our lack of awkwardness more than their restoration.
Ouch. Okay, so assuming I muster up the courage and realize I'm just being scared, then comes the passive check. This one flips the script entirely.
Yes, he asks, if you were the one in the wrong, if you were the one acting out, hurting people, or damaging the team, would you want a friend to help you return to the right path?
The golden rule, but it's so hard to answer, honestly.
It cuts right through the ego. We all like to think, of course I love feedback. But in the moment, when someone actually sits you down and criticizes you.
Oh, I'd be defensive, immediately. My walls would go straight up. I'd think, who are you to tell me that? But I guess the deeper question is, do I value the truth more than my pride? If I was driving toward a cliff, I'd want someone to grab the wheel, even if I yelled at them for doing it in the moment.
Exactly. You would want to be saved from yourself. And that realization is crucial for the third question, which is the attitude check. This is the one that usually disqualifies people from doing the confronting.
What's the question?
Do you believe it is possible to confront someone face to face without judging or condemning them?
That's the hardest one, because usually, if I'm correcting someone, there's a little bit of moral superiority baked in. There's a tiny voice in my head saying, I can't believe you did that. I would never do that.
And the source warns that this attitude is a total deal breaker. He references the protocol in Matthew 18.15 thing, talking to someone privately first. The goal isn't to win an argument or prove you're better or humiliate them. The text says the goal is to gain your brother. Yay, if you go in with an attitude of condemnation, you've already failed the test. You're not a surgeon trying to heal the wound. You're just a judge handing down a sentence.
So we have to be brave enough to speak up, humble enough to know we'd need help too, and empathetic enough not to judge. No wonder we usually just stay quiet. It's a very, very narrow path.
It's a high bar. But here is where the source takes a really interesting turn. He moves out of the sanctuary and the theological realm and drops us right into the middle of the office. He draws this really sharp contrast between how we behave in the workplace versus how we behave in spiritual or volunteer communities.
I loved this section. It felt so grounded. He asks a question about our bosses. Specifically, how do you view your boss?
And he's pretty cynical about it. He asks, do we genuinely respect their leadership? Or are we just there for the salary and the free air conditioning?
I laughed out loud at the free air conditioning line. It's such a specific little benefit, but it points to a reality. We often don't like our bosses. We might think they're incompetent. We might think their strategy is garbage, but, and here's the key, how do we treat them to their face?
We treat them with absolute deference. We nod, we smile, we execute the plan. We might complain at happy hour, but in the meeting, we are model employees.
Because we have a mortgage. We need the job.
Exactly. There are immediate, tangible consequences. If you blow up at your boss, you lose your livelihood, you lose the AC. So we practice restraint. But then the source pivots to the political landscape in Taiwan to show us the opposite extreme.
Yeah, this was vivid. He describes the scenes that everyone in Taiwan, and honestly, anyone who watches international news is familiar with. Legislators screaming at officials, throwing chairs, using abusive language, pointing fingers.
He describes it as pointing fingers and cursing. In the name of democracy, it's theatrical abuse, it's performative. And the source makes this amazing comparison. If you walked into your office tomorrow and treated your boss the way those politicians treat their opponents, what would happen?
Security would escort you out before you even finish your sentence. You'd be done.
You'd be walking the next day. But here is the aha moment from Pastor Hu. Why is this behavior, which would get you fired instantly in the corporate world, often tolerated in the church or community groups?
That is a fascinating inconsistency, isn't it? The source talks about members who shout at pastors or elders or just refuse to listen because they feel they are the biggest. It's like the volunteer nature of the community gives them a pass to be toxic.
It creates a double standard. We offer more respect to the person signing our paycheck, who we might not even like, than to the leaders of the community that is supposed to be about our soul. Pastor Hugh notes that this causes deep structural damage. When people feel they are too big to be corrected, or when they use their status as a longtime member or a big donor to abuse leadership, it just breaks the mechanism of the group.
And he notes that sometimes these people act like, well, he compares them to the Pharisees.
Which, for those who aren't familiar with the biblical archetypes, represents the religious elite who prioritize rules and their own status and public perception over actual goodness or mercy.
Right. The Pharisee effect. They don't admit they are wrong. They actually believe they are the guardians of the truth, even while they are destroying the harmony of the group. They think their anger is righteous.
And this brings us to the most dangerous part of avoiding confrontation with these types of people. If you have someone acting like this, someone who is toxic, but convinced they are right, and you do nothing because you want to be nice, the source uses a pretty graphic medical imagery here. He talks about gangrene.
Yeah, this got dark fast, but it makes a lot of sense.
He argues that if you just patch up a conflict, what he calls using a commercial method or some superficial compromise, it's like putting a bandage on an infected wound. You say, let's just agree to disagree, or let's just move on, but you haven't actually addressed the behavior.
And underneath that bandage, it becomes an infinite tissue inflammation. That sounds horrific.
It spreads. The source warns that avoiding the pain of cleaning the wound leads to the death of the body, or in this case, the collapse of the community. He references Philippians 3.2, where Paul says, "Beware of dogs, beware of evildoers." It's a stark reminder that not everyone in the community has good intentions, or at least their actions are producing evil results, regardless of their intentions.
And this leads to a point in the source that I found really, really controversial. I actually had to reread it to make sure I understood him. He quotes Warren Wiersbe, a famous Bible commentator, and it's about subtraction.
This is the paradox of subtraction.
Right. Usually we think addition more people is always good. Growth is good. We want the graph to go up and to the right. But the source argues that sometimes a disruptive person leaving the group is actually what restores harmony.
That goes against every instinct to keep the peace, especially in a church or a volunteer group. We want everyone to stay. We want to hug it out. We want the numbers to go up. Losing people feels like a failure.
But the source argues that peace at any cost is not true peace. If someone refuses to admit they are wrong, if they refuse to clean the wound and instead keep causing inflammation, their departure might be the only way to save the body.
It's like the immune system. If you have a toxin in the system, you have to get it out. If you keep the toxin because you don't want to lose mass, the organism dies.
This brings us to a specific cultural term the source uses, which I hadn't heard before, and I think this is where the niceness critique really lands. He talks about the Zhangyuan.
Yes, the Shang Yuan. This is a deep cut from Chinese philosophy, specifically Confucius. In the Analects, Confucius calls the Shangyuan the thief of virtue.
The Thief of Virtue. That sounds like a villain in a fantasy novel. It's a great title. What does it actually mean in this context?
It refers to a person who is hyper-agreeable, the ultimate nice guy or people pleaser. They never offend anyone, they always say the right thing to whoever they're talking to, and they are generally liked by everyone because they have no sharp edges. They're the person who just nods along with everyone.
Wait, that sounds like the perfect neighbor. Why is that bad? Why is that a thief?
Because they have no principles. They will not stand up for what is right if it means causing friction. They value harmony over truth. The source argues that many of us fall into this trap. We become the Shangyuan. We see bullying, we see gossip, we see injustice, but we smile and change the subject because we don't want to make it awkward.
So the Shangyuan is the enabler.
Exactly. They steal virtue because they counterfeit it. They look like good people, they seem peaceful and kind, but by refusing to confront evil, they allow evil to flourish. Pastor Hugh is saying that this silence is not a virtue. It's cowardice masquerading as kindness. And more than that, it's an injustice to the victims of that bullying or gossip.
That hits hard. It really reframes the whole idea of being a peacemaker, doesn't it? Being a peacemaker isn't just being quiet. Sometimes you have to make a little noise or a lot of noise to get to the actual piece. You have to stop the bully to protect the victim.
Correct. The source contrasts the commercial method of smoothing things over the Shengyuan approach with the divine method. One is quick, easy, and preserves the status quo, but it leads to rot. The other is painful, difficult, and might result in subtraction, but it leads to healing.
He mentions looking at bullying in the office, gossip online, these black letters or anonymous attacks. It takes serious guts to stand up to that, especially online where the mob mentality is so strong.
It does. And the source implies that if we cannot stand up for truth in these small interactions, in our office, in our online comments, in our family disputes, how can we expect to have a community that represents justice?
Sure.
If we were all just Shang Yuan nodding and smiling while people get hurt, we don't have a community, we just have a crowd.
So what does this all mean for us? As we wrap up, we've gone from the theology of covering sin to the reality of office politics, the danger of game green, and the trap of the Shang Yuan. What is the big takeaway here for someone listening on their commute?
I think the takeaway is about balance. The source summarizes it beautifully. We need a broad heart to reduce friction. We shouldn't be easily offended or petty. We shouldn't be looking for fights.
Right. Don't be the person who complains about the coffee temperature or the font size on the bulletin. That's just being annoying.
Exactly. Have a broad heart for people's quirks and honest mistakes. But you also need a firm spine.
A broad heart and a firm spine.
You must never compromise with actual evil. Whether that evil is malicious gossip, bullying, abuse of power, or a refusal to admit wrongdoing. True love involves the courage to speak the truth, even when, or especially when, it is uncomfortable.
It's a call to stop sweeping things under the rug, because eventually you're going to trip over that rug.
Precisely. And that leads to a final thought for you listening. The source asks us to look at the peace in our own lives right now.
And this is where it gets really interesting for you listening to this. Think about your relationships, your workplace, your community. Is the peace you feel real peace? Is it the peace of a healthy body? Or is it just a rug with a mountain of dirt swept underneath it?
And the provocative question is, if you dared to lift that rug today, what would you find? And are you brave enough to grab a broom and deal with it, even if it means kicking up some dust?
That is a scary thought, but a necessary one. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art of constructive confrontation. We will see you next time.